going to talk about the moral message of a story, or better known, central message of a story. Who here knows or thinks they know what the moral message of a story is? Come on, Elise. It's what? We did talk about sequencing of a story last week, but this week we're going to talk about the moral lesson of a story. The moral lesson of a story is pretty much what the author wants not only us, but the characters in the story to learn. Here's an example. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Once upon a time, there was a little red hen, and the little red hen wanted to bake a pie.
What?
No, she wanted to bake a loaf of bread.
Very fun.
Okay?
Very fun.
Maverick. She wanted to bake a loaf of bread. So she went to her friends and she said, "Hey dog, hey cat, I want to bake a loaf of bread." And they're like, she's like, "So why don't you come and help me? I'm gonna plant some seeds." And the dog and the cat said, "Nah, we don't want to help." So the little red hen planted the seeds all by herself. Once the seeds had grown, the little red hen went to the dog and cat and she's like, "Hey, come and help me harvest all the wheat we planted." And dog and cat are like, nah, we don't want to help. So the little red hen, she did it all on her own. She chopped down all of the wheat. And then she took it into her kitchen. And she's like, "Hey, dog and cat, I'm going to turn this wheat into flour. Why don't you guys come help? If you come help, I'm going to share my bread with you." And they're like, "No, thank you. We don't want to help." So she said, "Okay." And she turned the wheat into flour herself. Then she went to cat and dog. She's like, "Okay, it's time for me to bake the bread. Who wants to help me bake it?" And the dog and cat are like, "No, we're ready to do something else." So the little red hen did it all by herself. And she baked the bread. And then the bread was done. And she put it in the window to cool off. And dog and cat could smell that bread. And they thought it smelled so good. And they're like, ooh, can we have some?" And the little red hen said, "No, you may not. You did not help me plant the seeds. You did not help me pick the wheat. You did not help me turn the wheat into flour. And you did not help me bake the bread. So you may not have any bread." And the dog and cat were sad. And they went on, and the little red hen enjoyed her bread all on her own.
I'll wait for you guys.
Okay, so now that you've heard the story, what do you think the author wants the characters in the story to learn? Maverick, what's the lesson? Hope?
Help.
Help. It's important to help. What else do we get from it? To be good, to help. Elias? To be courteous of others. Jacob?
Share.
To share. Christiana?
Help.
To help. If dog and cat had helped with those chores, do you think the little red hen would have shared her bread?
Yes.
Yes. The moral lesson in the story is that if you help, you will get something good, typically, right? When we ask for friends to help clean up around here, sometimes those friends might get treasure, right?
Yeah.
Or they might get a piece of candy. When Miss Hynum plays her magic trash game and everyone scrambles to pick up the trash, the person who helps and finds the right trash gets what? Okay, so that's the moral lesson of our story. So we're going to look at another story, a little bit longer of a story than the little red hen.
Cat and dog. The little red
what lesson is the characters learning? Also, I want you to think about what lesson are you learning as the reader? It's very important because we're gonna break this down. Got it, Anaya? So it's very important that you're listening, okay? Because when we're done, I'm gonna want 3 key details from the story. What's a key detail? Magdiel? It's an important detail in the story, something that's going to help us decide what that moral or central lesson is, okay? So I want you guys on listening. My pencils should be put to rest in their beds. Okay. It's just a short story.
The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Retold by B.G. Hennessy. Illustrated by Boris Kulikov. There was once a shepherd.
I am so bored.
He thought,
All day long, all I do is watch sheep. All the sheep do is eat. Not only that, all they say is baa.
munch, munch, munch. Ah, answered the sheep.
Nothing ever happens here. None of my friends come to play. I am the most bored boy in the world.
Thought the shepherd. Munch, munch, munch. Ah, answered the sheep.
I wonder if sheep ever get bored.
He thought. He decided to teach the sheep some tricks. He expected the sheep would be happy to learn something new, but none of them seemed interested. Munch, munch, munch.
Ah.
The sheep protested.
What I need is a little excitement,
Said the shepherd.
Well, what would be exciting? I know.
He said. The shepherd boy jumped up from under his tree in the pasture and ran all the way into town, yelling,
Wolf! 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 There is a wolf after my sheep.
All of the townsfolk came running as fast as they could to help the shepherd boy protect his sheep. He looked everywhere for the wolf. No wolf in the pasture. No wolf on the hill. No wolf in the forest. One of the shepherd boy's friends stayed with him for the rest of the day to make sure the wolf was really gone.
That was a fun afternoon.
Thought the shepherd boy. But the next day, munch, munch, munch. Nah. Life in the pasture was back to boring again. So the shepherd boy jumped up from under his tree in the pasture and ran into town, this time yelling,
Wolves! 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 There are 2 wolves after my sheep.
and just like the day before, everyone came running lickety-split to help the shepherd boy protect his sheep. And just like the day before, they looked everywhere for the wolves. No wolves in the pasture, no wolves on the hill, no wolves in the forest.
They must have run away.
The shepherd explained. One of the boy's friends stayed with him for the rest of the day, this time to see if there really was a wolf.
That was another fine afternoon.
Thought the shepherd boy after his friend had left. The next day, just when the shepherd boy was beginning to get bored again, he heard lunch, lunch, lunch. Grrr. And lunch, lunch, lunch. Grrr. And lunch, lunch, lunch. Grrr. And there, by the edge of the pasture, were 3 big, hungry wolves. The sheep started running in all directions. And for the third time, the shepherd jumped up from under his tree in the pasture and ran into town, this time yelling,
Wolves! 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 There are 3 wolves after my sheep!
but this time, no one came to help. This time, no one believed him. And the shepherd boy spent the rest of the day looking for his sheep, all by himself.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Wow.
The end.
Please subscribe.
So, who can tell me what characters were in our story? Steven, what was our characters? Huh? The sheep? Well, the sheep were kind of characters. Who else were the characters in our story? Isabella? The boy? What other characters were in our story? Christiana? The wolf? And who said that? Maverick, what did you say? Say it louder so everyone can hear.
The whole crowd of people.
The whole crowd of people, the townspeople, right? All right, so the townspeople. So in this story, what did the little boy do first? Christiana. He lied. Jose, he lied and he said that there was a wolf coming. Was there a wolf? No. But the townspeople took him serious, right? And they ran to try to save the sheep. And the little boy probably thought it was kind of funny, right? Yeah. And then what happened the next time? Steven?
He lied.
He lied again, right?
And he lied until the final time.
So because he lied, what happened when the wolf did show up? Maverick?
Nobody believed him.
Nobody believed him. Is that an important message to learn?
Yes.
Cover your mouth, please, Isabella. Like in your shirt. All right, it's an important message. That is the moral message of that story. If you lie, people will not believe you when you are telling the truth. Okay? So let's look at this graphic organizer together. Ari, please stop making that noise. Appreciate it. Okay, so our central message or moral message, they mean the same thing, we said was not to lie. Because people will not know when you tell the truth. All right, now let's think of our story. We need 3 key details to prove that not to lie because people will not know when you tell the truth is the central message. What is a key detail from our story that supports that central message? What about the little boy? So Isabella said the little boy kept in the story allows us to know that if you lie and you don't tell the truth, people won't believe you when you do tell the truth, Elias.
The little boy kept shouting that there was coming to attack his sheep, but there really wasn't wolves.
So what would happen when he shout that wolves are coming?
They will come.
He would lie, but he would make what? He would make the townspeople do what? Christiana? Waste their time because they did what? They wasted their time because they got tricked or they believed him? Yeah? The townspeople. Did they believe him the whole time?
No.
So they believed him
The first time.
the first 2 times, right?
But the third
Sorry, stop making noise. All right. So one more key detail that leads us to know that the moral of this lesson is not to lie. So we know the little boy kept lying. We know the townspeople believed his lie a couple of times. What's our third key detail that lets us know that people will not believe our truth if we lie? Kennedy. Your hand is up. Well, what happened in our story? Johanna Lee. Okay, I want you guys to think of the story. Key details come right from the story, right? You guys are right. Both of what Johanna Lee and Kennedy said, that is the moral message. That's the main thing we're talking about. But we need to pull out those key details. One of the details is the little boy kept lying. Another detail is the town believed him the first 2 times. But what happened? What's another key detail that supports that if you lie, people won't know when you're telling the truth? What's a key detail in the story, Magdi?
The last time
It was. And what happened then? Nobody came. Elias.
The last time when he started shouting, there was coming to attack his sheep, and it was really happening. Nobody believed him because they thought that he was going to lie that time.
That's right. So when the wolf finally, you and Magdal both got it right. When the wolf did come, no one believed him. Very good. All 3 of these key details supports our central message. Let's talk about another story that you guys have all heard of. And I know you've heard of it because we read it since I've been here. Who remembers when we read The 3 Little Pigs? Okay. What is the central message of The 3 Little Pigs? Remember in The 3 Little Pigs we have 3 little pigs. And one builds their house out of what? And one builds their house out of? And one builds their house out of? Bricks. And then the wolf comes and he goes, I'm going to huff and I'm going to puff and I'm going to blow your house down. What is the central message of The 3 Little Pigs? Christiana. in that story, if you guys remember, the first little piggy chose hay. Because he said that hay was going to be, he could build his house super quickly, right? Build my house super quickly so I can play my fiddle, right? So he quickly built his house of hay and he said, this'll work, now I can play my fiddle, okay? The second little pig, he was like, hay isn't strong enough, I'm gonna build mine with sticks. It'll still be really quick. It'll take me no time, I'm gonna build it of sticks. So he quickly built his house of sticks so he could play his fiddle. The third little pig, well, that little pig spent a lot more time building his house. He gathered all the bricks, he used the mortar to keep the bricks together, and he wasn't worried about getting to his fiddle as fast as he could. And then when the wolf came, whose house stayed standing?
The brick.
The brick house. Why was the brick house the strongest? That's right. So what is the moral message in the Three Little Pigs, Christiana? To take your time and do it correctly the first time, right? And then if you do that, it'll turn out great. Exactly. All right, let's talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Who knows the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Okay. You've got a little girl, her name is Goldilocks, and she's walking through the forest one day when she stumbles upon a house. She decides that it's okay to just enter these people's house. She doesn't know who lives there, but she's like, let's just go in and visit anyways. When she goes inside, there are 3 bowls of porridge. That's oatmeal sitting on the table. And Goldilocks tries the first bowl. It's the biggest bowl because she thinks she's really hungry. And it was too hot. So then she tries the middle-sized bowl, and it was too cold. And then she tried the last bowl, and it was just right, so she ate it. All gone. And then she decided she needed to relax, so she moved into the living room. First chair she chose was the biggest chair, but it was too hard, and it kind of hurt her back. So she got down, and she went to the medium-sized chair, and she climbed up in the chair, and that one was just too soft. She didn't like it either. She just couldn't get comfortable. So then she went to the smallest chair, and guess what? It was just right. She loved sitting in that chair. But the relaxing, she ate, she relaxed, and now she's getting really tired. So she thought maybe she needed a nap. So she decided to explore and see if she could find a place to take a nap. And when she went upstairs, she found a room with 3 beds. Of course, she chose the biggest bed, right? But when she got on the biggest bed, it was too hard, and she wasn't comfortable. So she moved to the medium-sized bed, and it was too soft. It was kind of putting a kink in her back. So she said, fine, I'll go to the smallest bed. But the smallest bed was the most comfortable bed she ever laid in, and she went to sleep so fast. But then, when she woke up, 3 bears were standing over top of her. She had eaten their porridge and sat in their chairs, and now she was sleeping on their bed. And guess what? She got scared, and she ran out of there as fast as she can. What do we think the moral lesson of this story is, Rakyla? To never go in somebody's house when you don't know whose house it is, because you don't know who lives there, and you don't know if they will be nice or if they will be mean. The moral of that story is never ever go into anybody's house. Good job. I'm proud of you guys.
Because you don't know and you don't know who lives in there. It might be
Okay. Oh, is it too tall? Did I get it wrong? It's definitely possible.
Isabel.
Okay, now we're gonna try it on our own. All right. Now we're gonna try it on our own. You guys all know how to do this. You just showed me you can. So we're going to independently, that means by yourself, you're going to read the story, okay? And then you're going to write what the central message is. And then you're going to tell me one key detail. Remember we put the key details down here? One key detail that supports why this is the central message, okay? These are all words that you guys should be able to read.
But I don't think I can.
I think you can read these words. Well, this is reading.
This is reading room?
This is reading.
Wait, no, this is for centers? Standers. Weapons we need. Standers. Weapons we need.
The inside looks so
I
nice.
know.
Inside you might be winning.
Take one pass down.
Standers.
Riley, your pencil should be in the bed.
When you get this, you can go ahead and put your name on it. I have a good idea. Why don't, when you first get this, why don't you work with your partner sitting right next to you to read it together? Okay? So, Elias and Jade, you two can read it together. Rakyla and Michaela, you guys can read it to each other. Savannah and Liam, you guys can read it to each other. Okay. Curry and Kennedy, Madison and Noah, I think you can read it to yourself. You got it. Because we're just focused on reading it, okay? Jose and Ariana, why don't you guys read it to each other? You're capable of reading it on your own. Magdiel, you and Izzy read it together. Isabella, Izzy and Jacob, Stephen and Christiana, Lily and Johanna-Lee, Anaya, you're working with Sam, and Olivia, you're working with Maverick. Maybe, but right now we're just reading it and putting our name on it, okay?